So it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this month, Stephanie Teng, who will talk to us about honesty. And Stephanie is the one that is quite near and dear to Creative Mornings. She was actually one of our first photographers for Creative Mornings 4 years ago when we just started out, and I think she had not yet gone freelance. So it's been a long journey, but please welcome Stephanie Teng.
Morning, everyone. I literally only slept like an hour yesterday because I was really nervous. I thought I would walk into a room of 3 of you, so thank you all for trekking all over to the dark side to listen to me talk about honesty on my phone. So, all right. So, we all know this phrase, honesty is the best policy. But no one ever really goes further to explain why or how to live by it. The Oxford English Dictionary defines honesty as the quality of being honest, or a European plant with translucent seeds. The first definition is the kind of answer you'd give someone if you want them to leave you alone. And this, unless you're collecting plants or a Pinterest plant lover, I don't really see how this is relevant. But as adults, we all know that there are plenty of situations when honesty is not the best policy. If you were to really tell your boss how you felt about her, I'm pretty sure you might get fired right away. So I'd like to reframe the way we look at honesty today. I want to redefine it as a journey of self-confrontation. I know that makes it sound even more confusing. How many of you don't like confrontation? Can you put your hand up? Well, it's not too bad. I thought it'd be everyone, shooting their hand up. Okay, so I'm gonna try to explain what I mean by this by sharing with you 3 pivotal moments of my life that forced me, by choice or by circumstance, to confront myself and my reality in order to arrive closer at a life where I am honest and truer to who I am. I discovered photography completely by accident. I was halfway through pursuing a major in psychology when I realized the extent of how terrible I was at research statistics. So I thought I'd take a fun class, black and white photography, to balance out my anxiety. I fell in love with it instantly. This is not relevant, by the way. It was the first thing I'd ever done in my life that made me lose all sense of time. And I was hooked instantly. I would disappear from the world and hide in the darkroom for days. I was obsessed by the magic of watching an image emerge before my eyes and being able to hold the final product in my hands. You know when you watch a 3-year-old intently shoving things in their mouths or drawing elaborate blobs that no adult understands? That was me. We tend to forget, after we enter the real world, that it's human nature to be relentlessly curious. The pressures of society has a tendency to socialize us out of our obsessions. We learn to value practicality over creativity, competition over collaboration, money over time, and fear over courage. But I was no exception to these pressures. I moved back to Hong Kong after graduation and got myself a marketing job at a fashion company. Everyone around me said that if I wasn't going to be a psychologist, that this would be the right career path. So I was like, okay, you probably know better, so I'll just do it. But for 13 long months, I was completely miserable. I didn't know what I was doing behind a desk when all I wanted to be was behind a camera. But I thought that my dreams of pursuing photography were unrealistic, naive, and impossible in a city like Hong Kong. Until one day, I met a guy at a surf bar who asked if I'd be interested to help him start a family photography business with a few other partners. And I don't mean to sort of advise you to look for jobs that way, but it just sort of happened. But the point was that it was the first time in my young adult life where I had to be real with myself. I knew if I didn't take a chance then, I would be continuing on a path that wasn't true to who I was. So a year after photographing screaming babies, and families, I knew that it was time to move on and I could do better things with my life. No offense to people who have kids. I'm sure they're adorable. So I took the skills that I learned and decided to carve out a path for myself. Yeah. I took the plunge into the unknown and felt the waves of self-doubt hit me instantly. Suddenly I was thrust into the woods with no map in hand, no corporate ladder to climb, and no one to tell me what to do or how to do it. At the time, I would say yes. Back in the day, like 2 years ago when I was first started shooting for Creative Mornings, I would say yes to everything that came my way. Every job, no matter how small or little it paid, became an opportunity to learn something new. I would obsess over tutorial videos and practice shooting everything from portraits, food, fashion, and products. But people started telling me that I needed to pick a focus, to stop being too diverse, because no client would want to hire a jack of all trades. This kind of bothered me because versatility was my way of growing and honing my skills as a photographer. So why did everyone think that there was only one path to succeed? I couldn't really answer that question, honestly, so I just ignored everyone and just kept following my instincts and doing what I did. And since spring of 2015, I went from working for free, hustling at every event, to being offered a contract with the Mandarin Oriental to rebrand their F&B visual direction. I developed a program and taught photography to a group of domestic helpers through a social enterprise that empowered women through photography. I shot editorial stories for Condé Nast, Monocle, GQ, and Cathay Pacific. At every step along the way, I would remain honest to my aesthetic, or at least I tried to, and try to offer something new that they didn't expect, whether it was styling advice or additional images that weren't part of the brief. I tried my best to always see every job as a learning opportunity and a personal challenge to grow. So I finally thought, like, okay, I must be doing something right. I think I'm on the right path. This feels good. But earlier this year, I got into an accident that forced me to confront my entire reality again. I dislocated my kneecap and tore my ACL. Diana also had a similar accident, so I think she feels me. I couldn't shoot for months. I was devastated, depressed, and deeply afraid that my leave of absence would cost me all the momentum that I'd been building. Because we all know, in a city like Hong Kong, no one's gonna wait for you. So I started to panic and develop this irrational fear that my knee and I would never be the same again. I turned to late night McDonald's and irresponsible amounts of wine to numb myself. By the time I'd gotten off crutches, I was a couple sizes bigger and on the verge of an emotional collapse. Despite how dark this period of time was for me, it forced me to stop racing against the pace of the city and take a long, hard look in the mirror. I saw someone who was overwhelmed with pressure to constantly keep moving and proving people's misconceptions about freelancers wrong. Oh, the one. Yeah. So I set out into the unknown for the third time to try to figure out how I could regain this balance that I thought I had lost. I went to London for a 3-week course on documentary photography. I arrived not knowing anyone in the city and not knowing what I would shoot. The first thing I noticed when I set foot on the tube was how comfortable I felt sandwiched between all shapes and races. I wanted to escape the echo chamber of guilt I was in and learn to accept my body in its new shape. So I tried to explore the idea of photography as a form of therapy. Through sharing my struggles with body image, I found solidarity in 8 other women who fearlessly opened up to me and trusted me to depict their deepest insecurities. From battling eating disorders to learning to live with reproductive disorders, weight gain, emotional eating, fitness obsessions, we bonded over a shared history of battling with our bodies. When some of the women thanked me for inspiring conversations with their own friends and family, I knew that this was the part of my life that I was missing. I returned to Hong Kong a little stronger, a little more confident, and a little more balanced. So there is a story that I want to share with you today that isn't mine, that I really like, and it's going to make sense in a second. So a traveler came upon 3 men working. He asked the first man what he was doing, and the man said he was laying bricks. He asked the second man the same question, and he said he was building a wall. When he got to the third man and asked him what he was doing, he said he was building a cathedral. They were all technically doing the same job, but this really reveals to me the power of perspective. There will be times when you feel stuck at your job, and every day feels like laying bricks. There will be times when you feel like you're just a pawn in someone else's game. But there will also be moments when something happens in your life that moves you to your core. A feeling that you simply can't shake. A burning sensation to revolt against all the opposing voices of the world and create purpose out of some uncertainty. In this political and digital climate that we're in right now, honesty has never been more paramount. We've seen honesty being pushed aside in the courts, highest courts in the US. Famous documentary photographers violating the ethics of journalism. Famous documentary photographers violating, oh, I already said that. The industry has never been so crowded with content creators and photographers who value volume over substance, speed over accuracy, clickbait over content. But it is precisely because of the times we're in that we need to remind ourselves that as a photographer or a content creator, that we have the responsibility to capture our most honest version of the truth, and that is what photography is all about. And if a story is captured with the right intentions and told from the heart, it has the capacity to move people, to make the invisible visible, fight for justice, and in some cases, alter the course of history. In my book, photography has never been just a hobby or a job or a passion. It was so much more than that. It was the greatest metaphor for life for me. It has taught me how to frame and reframe my choices and redefine my perspectives. It has taught me how to problem solve, to improvise, and to think on my feet. It has shown me how to zoom out and appreciate the bigger picture when the little things start to weigh me down. So no matter if you're laying bricks, or building a wall, or building a cathedral, today or at any point or any stage in your life, I hope that you can leave here today a little bit braver to stand up for what you believe in, to listen to your heart, to confront your fears, and start your journey of self-confrontation. Thank you. Thank you so much. So you guys might notice that there are some sticky notes and pens on your chair. So I kind of wanted to end my talk with a little mini exercise. I kind of want to break the small talk walls that you guys may or may not have already had. So I want you guys to think about, after hearing everything that I've talked about, I want you to sort of take a couple seconds and reflect on your own journey and where you are at right now in your life and in your careers. And write down one word that describes how you feel when you reflect on your life and your career. And I want you guys, after you write that word down, to find somebody else in the room who has a similar word or the same word and have an honest conversation about something real. And I will also be shooting portraits of these groups of people. Once you guys have sort of formed your little groups or formed pairs, we will take a portrait of you guys outside So, but I want you guys to sort of mingle and have those conversations first before we do the portraits. So, yeah.
Thanks, Steph. Real quick, just another round of applause for Stephanie. So we want to do a Q&A. Don't time. So anyone who has a question, or if someone wants to share the word that they've written down, we can talk about that. So anyone first? That's great. Slow hand. Another.
Hi, Steph. Thank you for the great talk. I have a question is that, so assuming that we're all kind of freelancers, or assuming, and I'm also sort of a freelancer, honesty goes a long way, but also it feels like it's kind of mother talk. So your mom always tells you, or at least my mom always tells me something that she thinks it would help me in a very honest way, but I don't get it. Not until I really hit the brick, hit the wall, and start making those kind of mistakes. So when I deal with clients, like how do you, I don't say you lie, but how do you portray your honesty and truth in a way that they are more digestible and they would become your friend instead of enemy? Like how would you go about it?
Okay. I guess I can only speak from my own experience. So, like kind of how I mentioned earlier, I sort of really had to like hustle and really do a lot of work for free. I had to build a lot of like very different relationships throughout the past 3.5 years where I've been freelancing. So, but I would say that again, once I sort of gotten over the first hump of like building some sort of credibility in the industry and building some sort of reputation, then you can start to really assert your style or your aesthetic or what you believe in. And that's what I have tried to do. And you're right, like of course, like there are a lot of clients who have a very, like, they already know exactly what they want and they're just hiring you to execute their vision. And a lot of times that does happen and that tends to be the norm, but I think because I started off doing a lot of that kind of work and that I wasn't quite happy with, so I would use a different approach with clients. So for example, like for the Mandarin Oriental, like I gave them an entire proposal of what I thought. I showed them, like, I asked them to see their before images. I looked at their before images and I explained to them why this wasn't contemporary enough or why it wasn't like in line with their modern customer that they want to appeal to. So I would sort of use that and like pitch it to them essentially. So like imagine if you were, like a writer and you're trying to pitch stories to a newspaper, you have to do the same thing, right? You have to come up with certain ideas and you have to offer them something outside of just your skill set and your services. And so I think that's sort of my advice on how to go about it. And I mean, I understand you can't always be honest, right? Like you can't be honest if you don't like certain things or people don't pay you on time, which still happens to me, like on a month-to-month basis. So, but I think there are just ways where you can navigate and just be yourself and just push for the things that you feel like are right for that specific client.
Anyone else?
Hi, Steph.
Hi.
Thank you for such a moving and incredible talk. I wanted to ask, I think a big part of honesty is having boundaries, especially when you're a freelancer. So what have been some of the most important boundaries you've created for yourself?
Yeah. Okay. That's a good question. Boundaries. I think, so I've been freelancing for about 3.5 years now, and I would say that the first half of that journey, I didn't have very many boundaries. I'd just be like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Like, I'll do whatever you ask me. Like, I'm ready for the challenge. Like, I'll just do anything. But I think in the last sort of, like once I started to get like bigger clients and I started to sort of have, I guess, a bit more of a say, I guess, in some way, or at least I felt a little bit more confident myself. And I think that was sort of the point where I started saying no to people. I started saying no to the work that didn't align with who I wanted to be, not who I was then. Yeah, and I think now, so I can talk a little bit about like what I'm doing now. So like after London, like after that project, I am embarking on another really personal project right now. So I'm trying to draw boundaries in the sense that I obviously need to find a balance between commercial and personal passion projects, which I'm sure if a lot of you guys are creatives or freelancers, like you'll understand the struggle. It's very real. Right now I'm working on something on sexual harassment in Hong Kong. And my experience so far, I've been shooting for about 3 weeks now. And I would have to say that you need a lot of boundaries there. So I think it really depends on like the work, or the nature of the work that you're doing. So for the sexual harassment project, because it's such a heavy topic, and because also the culture, I guess, in Hong Kong makes it a little bit more difficult. There's a lot more barriers. So in that sense, there needs to be boundaries. Also, I need to know at what point can I stop? Like, at what point do I draw the line and say, sorry, I can't help you, but I can refer you, to somebody you're a professional. And so yeah.
Any last question? Ernest?
Hey, do you have Instagram or how do we follow you?
Yes, I do. You can follow me at definitely Teng. It's a little bit of a pun on my own name, so if you can try to spell that and find me, then you're welcome to follow me. I also write like a bit of poetry, and I post some stuff like other kinds of work like on my Instagram as well. So check it out if you want to.
Yes, so if you want to follow Stephanie, you have to watch her Instagram stories.
Please don't.